ZyMot device itself consists of a lower chamber in which we will load our raw, unwashed semen via the labeled inlet port in the center of the device. We will then overlay media compatible with our incubator that we plan to use onto the upper chamber of the device, but starting by priming the concentration outlet port of the ZyMot device. Separating the upper and lower chambers of the device itself is a polycarbonate membrane with 8 micrometer pores dispersed throughout it. Once the device is loaded, we will place it within our petri dish, affix the cover to it, and immediately set the device within the dish into an incubator set at 37 degrees C for a period of 30 minutes. During this incubation period, the most motile sperm within any sample, which also will have the most normal and healthy attributes, will be able to interact with the ZyMot device and have an opportunity to interact ultimately with the device's membrane. Only the strongest sperm displaying the healthiest attributes are able to penetrate the pores of the ZyMot membrane and will be swimming in the media on top of the device, ready to collect. Step number 1 when using ZyMot involves loading 850 microliters of raw semen, or the equivalent volume of semen plus media, into the inlet port labeled as such in the center of the device. We will use the first of our 3 syringes for this. Once we have our 850 microliters of our raw semen loaded into the first of our 3 syringes, we will begin by placing this syringe into the inlet port of the device, making sure that we provide some downward pressure and have a nice snug fit with the device. And from here, slowly and in a controlled fashion, we will begin loading the sample into the lower chamber of the device, and we should be able to see our progress here. We do want to ensure all 850 microliters are successfully loaded, and ideally that we have no air bubbles. We will then discard with our first syringe. Now that our device is successfully loaded in the lower chamber with our semen sample, we will move on to our second step, which involves our second syringe and our media. And for this step, we will pull up in our second syringe 750 microliters of our confirmed media, as I have here. And from here, we will begin by placing the syringe into the concentration outlet port of the device. We will prime this channel with around 100 microliters of media in order to ensure that we have broken surface tension that otherwise would impede our final aspiration step. Once we are here, we remove the syringe and continue in a circular fashion with the remainder of our media, trying to ensure that all of these droplets come together on top of the polycarbonate membrane separating the upper and lower portions of the device. We must be careful never to touch the membrane itself. Once it looks like this, we are ready to move on to our next step. Now that we have successfully loaded our semen sample into the inlet port of the ZyMot multi-device and have also overlaid media on top of the polycarbonate membrane separating the upper and lower chambers of the device, we are ready to immediately move on to our next step, which involves incubating our device and also involves our petri dish. I will gently pick up the device, place it within the dish, and make sure that I replace the cover so that we will be able to retain humidity of the media that we have overlaid on top of the device while it spends time within the incubator. This will also make it much easier to travel to and from the incubator while keeping the device level and undisturbed, which is very important. Once we're at this point, we immediately bring our device to our incubator set at 37 degrees C, and now we can take a break or do any number of things we need to do during this uninterrupted 30-minute incubation period. After the ZyMot device within a petri dish has spent 30 minutes within an incubator at 37 degrees C, we know that we should have the optimal yield of sperm to collect from ZyMot, but we also know that any sperm we do collect from ZyMot will have the lowest levels of DNA fragmentation associated with them on average, which other methods such as simple sperm washing, density gradient centrifugation, swim up, or any of these in combination are simply not able to provide. Once we have removed the device from the incubator, we will remove it from our petri dish and immediately proceed with our fourth and final step. All we are expecting swimming in the media that we have overlaid on top of the ZyMot device are very, very motile sperm, again with the lowest levels of DNA fragmentation we can possibly obtain. So this is all we want to collect at this point, and this involves our third and final syringe. We will gently and carefully place our third syringe into the outlet port, and all we want to do is create a very gentle lateral flow of the media on top of the device containing the sperm that we wish to collect up into the syringe. So we will move slowly and deliberately with this final step. There is no need to rush. And we will begin aspirating up to a maximum of 500 microliters from this device. Once we have reached our full volume of 500 microliters, we are done. We now have an incredibly clean, nearly 100% motile, separated sperm sample ready to go for IUI, for ICSI, or for conventional insemination. Refer to our instructions for further details, but if we need to store the sample for later in the day, we will do so into our cap tube. And that's how we use ZyMot. Very fast, very easy, reliable, consistent, and repeatable. Thank you for your time.